so we can kind of remember what's going on at this point. But life happens, and I misplaced one cable. I broke the extra one I had, and long story short, I had no cable to connect it to my computer to make my microphone work. Yeah. So anyways, I mentioned in my Patreon, which all the posts that I usually put there are public, just the videos that are for Patreons only are going to be the ones that are just for Patreons. But if you want to follow me there, or if you have any questions, I usually update there, because that's kind of my quote-unquote social media outlet, other than YouTube, that won't let me add any kind of post or anything other than a video. So anyways, in that update that I did on my Patreon, I mentioned that I was going to wrap it up in one video, this Haleigh Cummings series, and I tried, but it's just way too much information, so I am going to do it in 3 more episodes. So this one is number 1, and then there will be 2 more, and we'll wrap it up the way that I don't know, put together this series. It's kind of revealing more evidence and more tips and more people that it's involved in this disappearance. So that means that there is some people out there that we haven't talked about, and they're very suspicious, and that I think that they may have something to do with what happened to Haleigh. Now, we haven't even talked about that people yet, so I feel like if I tried to wrap it up in just one more video, it would be way too confusing. Now, I do also this for fun, so you know, it just makes sense in my mind to do it in 3 more videos, and then we're gonna move on to 1 episode, start from to finish kind of videos. I have a few of them that are very interesting, and I can't wait to start on that. But before I do that, I need to finish the Haleigh Cummings, because this is something that it's been haunting me since I started it, and I think that you should know more about it. And I'm sure that you watch many videos about her disappearance if you like true crime, but I feel like you know, when you hear a little bit of information here and another there, and news and clips and stuff, you kind of get a better understanding of what truly happened, and maybe it wasn't revealed that much on social media or on TV, or the coverage that this case got. So let me get started with today's episode of this disappearance. If you're new to this series, I will have a card that it's going to pop up in the top of the screen, and also it will be on in the description box down below. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, or why I started with this part, you probably have to go back and listen to the other podcast, the other episodes of this, and they will be in order in that playlist, so please check it out if you're interested at all. Now, in the last video, we talked about Haleigh's dad, Ronald, getting married to Misty. Remember Misty? She was the girlfriend, of Ronald, and she was the one who was babysitting Haleigh and her brother Ronald Jr. the night that Haleigh disappeared. We also talk about how that meant at the time that they couldn't actually testify against each other. So, you know, the news and pretty much every single expert that I heard talking about this, they kind of put it as an like a strategy or something. So somebody was covering his butt, and I think that Ronald was kind of afraid that Misty was going to say something, and that keeping her happy and you know, popular on different news and TV shows and stuff, maybe police agree that this was a strategy. They got married after 1 month of Haleigh's disappearance, so who can think of getting married? But that's what we talk about in the last episode. By the way, I don't think that it was something that they came up with. I do think that that probably was some kind of a lawyer's advice or something like that. I don't think they are smart enough or they know the laws enough to, come up with that let's get married kind of thing. Also, I don't think that is something that is going on right now. Remember, that was in 2009, and I've heard people, I am not a lawyer, but I've heard people saying that that law doesn't apply anymore. So, it might be something that was something that you could do back then, but not anymore. So, remember we talked about that they went for their honeymoon and everything to New York for interviews and stuff, and how, it was kind of an odd behavior. Now, after the marriage, the problem started. I don't know exactly when they started, but the first thing that is recorded by the police, it was in August 6 in 2009, when Misty called her brother and her father and told them that she didn't want to live with Ronald anymore. Now, I haven't seen any kind of clips or anything where Misty explains what happened that night. I think that there wasn't that much coverage on what Misty told the police about what happened that night, and if she actually called her father and her brother to go pick her up. But I think since that became a police investigation later, maybe that's why she didn't go on any shows or anything talking about that specific night, at least that I could find. Now, Misty's father, Hank, that's his name, and Misty's brother's name is Tommy. So Hank and Tommy went to pick her up as soon as she called them. When they got there, Ronald was acting like a crazy person. Now we know how he reacted the night that they called 911 to report Haleigh's disappearance. I mean, this guy, it is pretty violent, pretty vulgar, and apparently that night he was going crazy on pretty much everyone. So when they got there, Tommy was trying to get to his truck, and apparently at that time is when Ronald attacked him. I'm not sure how much, but I know that it was a physical altercation. It wasn't just like they were yelling at each other. Now at that time, Tommy, the brother, Misty's brother, managed to get to his vehicle and leave. At that time, he called the police and he explained that, Tommy, the brother, and Hank, the father, were attacked by Ronald Cummings. Now, when the police got there, Ronald didn't want to talk too much about anything that happened that night. He was actually, he has the right to remain silent. He didn't have to talk to the police at that time. So that's exactly what he did. When there were some witnesses there, and even though they don't specify who were the witnesses in this, the police had enough evidence, I guess, to arrest Donald at that time. Now he got charged with burglary, which I do not understand how, but again, this was an ongoing investigation at the time, so maybe the police didn't release all the details about it. The lawyers, they want to keep quiet because they don't want you to incriminate yourself. So I don't know why he got charged with burglary, but that's what he got, and simple battery. But he was released shortly because Misty posted the bond for him, and she actually waited for him outside when he was released. She was also with there's an investigation and maybe getting some kind of a plea deal or something like that. Now, right after that, the problems continue because Tommy missed his brother. He got a decapitated rat in his mailbox. Now, the good thing, I guess, is that a neighbor saw that Ronald was the one putting something in the mailbox, and he's not a mailman, so we're guessing at this time that he was the one that put the rat in the mailbox, and he even testified to that. The neighbor did. Now, the thing is, why would Ronald put the rat in Tommy's mailbox? Right? That is the question. Now, let's go back to the night that Haleigh disappeared. Remember that that night, Ronald tried to contact Misty, and since she didn't pick up the phone, Ronald called Tommy and asked him to go check on Misty. Remember, she didn't want to babysit that night. She was partying the weekend before. This was a Monday. She was doing drugs. She was cheating on Ronald the weekend before. So I don't know if Ronald wanted Tommy to check on her because he wanted to make sure that she wasn't cheating on him, or because he actually knew that she was under no conditions to babysit. Maybe she, I don't know. I have no idea the kind of effects that you can get from doing drugs for an entire weekend. So I don't know if he was worried about the kids not being taken care of, or if he was worried that, Misty was having some kind of boyfriend in his house while he was working. Now, according to the story that they gave at first, Misty didn't answer the door and was probably sleeping. So he kind of tried to look or peek through the window. Everything was dark, so he left. Now, the theory that the police and the expert have of why Tommy got this decapitated rat in the mailbox is that Ronald wanted to keep him quiet about something. Listen, they think that is because Tommy maybe does know more than he's telling. Maybe that Tommy was there at the time that Haleigh disappeared. Remember, there is going to be another guy in the next episode that is going to be part of this night as well. At the time, we can only put Misty. At this time, we can only put Misty there, but in Tommy going to check on her and leaving. But there was somebody else at the house that we're going to find out in the next episode. We're going to talk about other probabilities about this case or what could have happened that night. But so the experts believe that maybe Ronald wanted to keep him quiet. They had that problem and Tommy called the police. He was the one to call the police when he was attacked by Ronald. So what would give you the peace of mind that he's not going to call the police on you if he knows something about Haleigh and maybe he was still mad at Ronald? Now, that's one possibility. But I also think that it could have been something different. These people are involved with drugs, and I'm not saying that they're doing drugs. I'm saying that they are dealing. They have connections. They're selling this stuff, so they're probably the friends or their providers are not going to be the nice people that maybe you have as a coworker, or maybe a coworker that is a pain in the butt. They're dealing with hardcore, pretty dangerous people, and even though I have no idea who they are, if you're a dealer, more than likely you're involved in a situation like that. That is my theory. I mean, it could have been that he just, that maybe Tommy was involved in some kind of drug deal that they had, or that he knew exactly how business or don't talk about. I don't even know if Tommy, at this point, I don't even know if Tommy, knew more about Haleigh. I think that at this point, it could have been something drug related, and maybe that Tommy knew more than he should about that, and Ronald didn't want to get accused of something else. Now at this point, right after that, the police started an investigation on Ronald's father capacities. I don't know. He is a lot of work. Apparently the head of an organization that helps when there is a child missing. I think it's from Texas. I didn't write down the name, but this organization, the person that is in charge of it, it's actually a parent of a kid that, I'm not sure if it was a kid or if it was a young lady. I know it was a girl that was killed, and that they looked for her and they actually found her dead. So I guess that he kind of made his life mission to look for other kids that are missing. So this guy visited Ronald about, the search and everything, and the search efforts at that point. And Ronald started talking about Haleigh. I guess that the guy was trying to talk about what actually happened that night or whatever, and maybe he implied, okay, this is speculation. I think that he probably implied something about Misty, because all of a sudden, Ronald tells him that if he ever finds out that Misty knows where Haleigh is, he will blow her teeth out of the back of her head while he gets down on the floor. He says that, so he's getting down on the floor and puts a gun inside his mouth and said he would kill himself and take a few others with him. So basically, I don't know if he was trying to cover for Misty or he wanted to act like a concerned parent. But he did all that show, and you know what? Ronald Jr., his 3-year-old son, was right there in the same room watching everything. So of course, this guy that went to visit him from the organization, he reported this to the police, and they started an investigation for child abuse. They searched the house and they found several guns with bullets, and actually the guns and the bullets by it, and they were all unlocked. So it wasn't only unlocked, but it was in a reach of kids. Maybe Ronald Jr. could have opened the door and the gun was there. But again, Ronald, he was the kind of guy that he had that fascination with guns. So it only makes sense that he had quite a few guns. I'm not gonna get into gun thing, but I don't own any, and but if I own one, I wouldn't keep it, and I have no babies here, but I wouldn't keep a gun unlocked, and especially in reach. Because you never know, if a kid gets to your house and they're playing around, you go to the bathroom, they open it, it just doesn't make sense. But since he is comfortable with guns and he has that fascination with it, maybe it wasn't a big deal to him, or maybe he wasn't even aware, which isn't aware, but okay, let's move on. I think that just because of what he did in front of this guy, in my humble opinion, it's showing that he has some kind of mental problem or poor education, something. Because think about for just 1 second, if you are in your right mind and let's say you're trying to cover for Misty, okay? let's put yourself in that situation. You're trying to cover for Misty, but you still need to act normal. Would you do that? I mean, would you do that scene so dramatic? Would you do it even if your son wasn't there? I mean, let's take the kid out of this situation. Let's say that it's only the guy with you. Would you do that? I mean, that shows how smart this guy is, and how he's clearly not in his right mind. Nobody in the right mind, even if he did something, and he was trying to cover it, would do that to make his story more believable. I am so sorry, but in my mind, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I think that his behavior speaks for himself. Now, let's finish this episode. Well, I have quite a few things to talk about, but mostly about the divorce. Yes, they decide to get a divorce. And all that I'm going to talk about is things that I've heard about not only the divorce itself, but also from Ronald's and Misty's mouth. They went on TV and said this thing, so we're going to go and talk about those. So they went into different programs. So one went to, I don't know, I can't remember what station it was, but they went into different programs and different channels. But both of them in the different channels, they kind of claimed that they were getting divorced because everyone had the eyes on them and couldn't be happy or have any kind of privacy. That is what they claim. I mean, basically they said exactly the same things, but in different programs and with different people, and they did it separated. So it's kind of obvious that that wasn't actually the reason why, and also that was something that they came up with to tell the media. Now, Ronald was with Nancy Grace, I think, and she was very tough on him, but he continues to say about this, that they're getting too much attention. So she was like, so you are going to tell me that you're going to divorce Misty because you're getting too much attention? That doesn't sound right. And he was like, well, I didn't say that. I said that is part of the reason why we're getting a divorce. Now he also says that, okay, I'm gonna resume this because his way of speaking, it just, I don't know. He says that if Haleigh comes back, Misty may go back to Ronald and they could be a family again. Nancy Grace, she almost fainted. She was like, okay, what? So are you saying that in the future, because he said that in the future, if Haleigh shows up, you and Misty will, might get back together? He was like, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future. Didn't he just say that in the future this would be something that might happen? You have to watch that interview because it's ridiculous. So Nancy asked him again if he was divorcing her because, I guess the media was saying that maybe he was suspicious about Misty, and maybe that, he kind of found out that Misty was hiding information about where Haleigh is or what happened to Haleigh. And he actually says that that is not the case, that he believes her, and that is the problem, that, he mostly has problems with Misty's family, and he has no doubt that Misty didn't do anything to Haleigh, or that So he kind of cleared the air out by saying that, because in my opinion and the research that I've done, it was mostly the media saying that Ronald probably found out something about Misty not being, honest about what happened to Haleigh. But I haven't, and I did look for interviews or something where he says that, and I couldn't find it. Now, in Misty's interview, she claims that the divorce is Ronald's idea, that he was the one who filed for divorce, and that she understands it because they're getting too much attention, and that makes their relationship very hard. She was also asked what she thought about the allegations that Ronald thinks she knows more, and she's not telling the police or telling him, and she quickly says, "No, I know he believes me." And let me tell you, if you listen to Misty speak in the different programs, and this is after doing all this research, in my opinion, this is the one time that Misty sounds 100% convinced. This is the one time that she kind of drops the act, and whatever that act was, and she kind of speaks like a normal person, and she says, "No, I know he believes me. I know he knows that I didn't do anything, or that I actually don't know where Haleigh is." Well, there are some other things that they went through in this interviews, and that is about it's a lie detector. They did one of those to her too, but let me tell you, you don't have to be a lie detector to realize but you have to watch. Look them up. Look up the interviews with Misty when she is giving the act. I'm sorry, maybe that was loud. But she sounds so childish and so like, I know she's 17, but in most of the interviews she looks like she's putting an act. And in this one, she looks so sure, like, I think your subconscious kind of took over, because, she knows, and she truly believes that Ronald knows that that she's not lying about what happened to Haleigh. Why isn't she not lying to Ronald? Because he probably knows what happened to Haleigh, in my opinion. So that's why she's so convinced, and she is so, you just have to watch the interview. If I can find it, I'll link it below. Everything they say and do, in my opinion, points to a cover-up. Misty, every single time I listen to her, it seems like she knows something that she's covering. And in my honest opinion, I don't think she's done anything to Haleigh, but I think she knows what happened to her. And again, it kind of shows, because in the same interview, as I mentioned before, they talk about the polygraph, and that told that she didn't pass it, so she was told, spit it out. She was told, she didn't get told that, but I don't know what I'm saying. I am losing my train of thought, so I'm sorry. Okay, let's go back. She mentions that she failed a polygraph. They mentioned the person that was interviewing Misty, and Misty says that it was probably because she felt guilty about being the last person to see Haleigh alive. That is what somebody told her at the station or whatever she went to get her polygraph done. Now, let me go through some of the questions that So, anyways, okay, the questions that she failed show that she knows, or at least in my opinion, and in the expert's opinion, that she knows more, but that she didn't actually hurt her. Okay, let's go. They asked her if she knew who took Haleigh, and she answered no. But the expert thinks that she was only 46% accurate, or however you measure that, because nobody, truthful, that's what it was, because nobody took Haleigh. It is a fabricated story that she disappeared in the middle of the night. So basically she was saying 46% of the truth, or she was truthful 46%. And remember, this is the polygraph. It is not admitted in court. It is not. But that gives information to the police to investigate a little bit more on things that come up in this kind of a question. So again, she said no to that question according to the experts, because experts believe that what she claimed that happened that night didn't happen. So she wasn't actually taken. So if she wasn't taken, she can't say that somebody took her, or that she knows who took her. They also ask her if she's afraid to get arrested, and she says no. I mean, that was in the interview itself. I mean, there were other questions that they did. I thought that I wrote them down, but apparently I didn't. The question that they asked her, she failed the polygraph, okay? So that should tell you something. And of course they're gonna ask questions about, that night and what happened and what she knows, if she knows where Haleigh is. And she fell horribly, that one. I mean, the polygraph indicates, in my opinion, that she knows where Haleigh is. Either if she's alive, or if she's dead, or if she's alive, maybe she does know where they took her, or where they left her, or and if she's dead, then she probably know where the body is, and that is why she keeps failing the polygraph. Now, the divorce, on the other hand, for the police helps them. At the time, it does help, but it actually leaves them with more questions than answers. I feel like up until this point, we kind of discover the kind of person that Misty and Ronald are. I mean, they just kind of develop and show you who they truly are throughout, I believe, anyways, throughout this series, throughout this, I don't know how to explain it, but when you watch them all night, if you're obsessed enough, or in this case, like me, and watch every single news clip that you can find, then you kind of get a better idea of the kind of person they Ronald is and Misty is. They're completely different people, and they are, I don't know if uneducated is the word. I don't want to sound rude. I don't think I'm smarter than anyone or anything like that, but I think that sometimes when you have no idea, I mean, you don't know what to think of the guy, with Ronald. I don't know what to think about him, because he knows exactly how you can hit your child in the butt according to Child Protective Services. But he doesn't know that he can't put a gun in his mouth in front of his kid and not being abused. So again, I don't know if he has some kind of mental problem. What that prevents him from making the right decisions, or from being, I don't know, sense in my mind. You're trying to make sense out of legal reasons. They don't make sense. You're trying to make sense out of a criminal kind of behavior, and it doesn't make sense either. If now we know that they're criminals, because they were dealing drugs, so maybe they weren't the smartest ones. Maybe the big dealers, that's what they need. They need somebody who's not really smart so they can do the dirty work. I wouldn't know, but I don't know. Those are things that are going through my mind. For some weird reason, I'm sharing them with you. Anyways, get ready. This is going to be a shorter one. I think it's going to be 40 minutes. But for the next ones, they're going to be long, and we're going to finish this story. Not story, this disappearance with theories. My theory, your theory. I just want to see if we can come up with something different of what people believe out there that happened to Haleigh. Please stay tuned. I will record the next part tomorrow, and it should be up within a couple of days. I really, truly want to finish this series this week, because you won't believe how many cases I have that I already did the research for, that I think you should know about. They're not as popular as, this case, for example, but I think they're worth talking about, and I like to do those kind of smaller cases because I think they all tell a story, and maybe not a very known one, and that's what it's all about for me anyways. So anyways, thank you so much for watching this video.